So today we're going to be dividing polynomials, and we're going to be using long division to do this. And one of the reasons that we may want to do this is we may have a rational expression like we have here where it doesn't factor. So there's nothing we can cancel out. But we may want to divide this anyways, and so we can do that using long division. Now the way to set this up is whatever is on the bottom goes out in front here in the long division. And what's on top goes under the line. Okay? Now, when we're doing this, you remember how when we do long division, we have this and we say, how many times does this go into this? And we write it up here. Well, now we've got polynomials. We've got x's, we've got squared, we have numbers. How do we do this? Here's what we're going to do. When we do this, we're going to look at this right here, and we're going to look at this. And the question is, how many times does this go into this? But that's not an easy way to say it. An easier way to say it is, what do I have to multiply this by to get it to be this? And that is an easier question to answer. I would multiply by an x, right? Because x times this x will give me x squared. So x is going to be part of my answer. I'm going to look where I have the x term, which is here, and I'm going to put my x above it. Now, remember where we multiplied this times what was over here? We're going to do that. And remember, in order to do that, we have to distribute. So x times x is x squared. X times 2 is 2x. And now we want to subtract. Now remember, subtracting is kind of difficult with monomials. So what I do is take these signs, change them, and add. So whatever they are, change them to the opposite sign and add. So here, x squared and negative x squared cancels. 6x and negative 2x leaves me 4x. And now I'm going to bring down my minus 10. Okay, now my next step, I'm working with this. So this times what gives me 4x? And that would be 4. So I'm going to go over here and put my 4 here. Now because it's positive 4, I'm going to put a plus. And again, I'm going to multiply this times this. And I have to do that using distribution. So 4 times x is 4x. 4 times 2 is 8. Change both signs. And now I can add. So 4x and negative 4x eliminates. This first one should always eliminate, or you've done something wrong. The second one, I get negative 18. All right? That's my remainder. All right, so the way that we're going to write our answer is like this. You're going to take this, x plus 4, plus this divided by this. So your remainder divided by this. So I have negative 18 over x plus 2. And that's the way I'm going to write my answer. All right, let's go to the next one. Okay, first of all, I'm going to take a look at this and this. What do I need to multiply this by to get it to be x to the third? And the answer to that would be I need to multiply it by an x squared. So I'm going to go to my x squared term up here and write x squared. Now I'm going to multiply this by this using distribution. So that's x to the third and negative 2x squared. Now, change both signs. So I'm going to change this to a minus and this to a plus. All right, now add. X to the third and negative x to the third eliminates. Negative 5x squared and positive 2x squared gives me negative 3x squared. Bring down your next term. Okay? Now, I'm going to use this x again, but I need to know what I need to multiply that by to get it to be negative 3x squared. And the answer to that would be negative 3x. So I'm going to put that right up here. And now I'm going to distribute this to here. So negative 3x times x is negative 3x squared. And negative 3x times negative 2 is plus 6x. Now remember, change both signs. So this is a positive, this is a negative. Negative 3x squared and positive 3x squared eliminates. Positive 4x and negative 6x give me negative 2x. And bring down that minus 2. Okay, we're going to do this again. So what do I need to multiply x by to get it to be negative 2x? And the answer to that, negative 2. So I'm going to write negative 2 up here. All right, and now I'm going to multiply negative 2 times this using distribution. So negative 2 times x is negative 2x. And negative 2 times negative 2 is plus 4. All right, change both signs. So this becomes plus, this becomes minus. Negative 2x plus 2x eliminates. Negative 2 and negative 4 give me negative 6. And again, this is my remainder. Now, the way I write my answer is like this. Go here, and we're going to write this. So I've got x squared minus 3x minus 2 plus, this goes on the top, this goes on the bottom. So this is negative 6 over x minus 2. Now, this goes on the bottom here because originally it was on the bottom. All right? So that's our remainder, how our remainder is expressed as part of our answer. All right, let's do another example. Let's go to the last page. This one has a little something extra involved in it. If you notice, when you look at this particular problem, it goes from x to the third, and there's no x squared power, and then there's an x. So it doesn't have every single power. Well, when we do long division, we have to represent every single power. So what we have to do is put a 0x squared to hold the place of the x squareds. If you don't have a column for the x squareds, your whole problem will be off. So if it's missing a term, if it's missing one of the powers of x, just put in a 0 as the coefficient for that term, and it's going to hold your place for you. All right, so now let's go ahead and do it. And we're going to ask ourselves, what do we have to multiply x by to get it to be 2x to the third? How about 2x squared? So go to the x squared column here, and we're going to write 2x squared up here. We're going to multiply it by this using distribution. So 2x squared times x is 2x to the third, and 2x squared times 2 is 4x squared. Change both signs. And now we can add. So 2x to the third and negative 2x to the third, that's going to cancel. That first one always will when you've done something wrong. 0x squared and negative 4x squared gives me negative 4x squared. Bring down my next term, which is plus x. All right, what do I need to multiply this x by to get it to be negative 4x squared? How about negative 4x? So that's what I'm going to put up here. I'm going to multiply negative 4x times x plus 2 using distribution. So negative 4x times x is negative 4x squared. And negative 4x times 2 is negative 8x. Okay, change both signs. Notice I always am changing my signs in red, and the reason why is so that I don't get confused by writing over in my same color. So this becomes positive, and this becomes positive. And I know that this was me switching the signs because I did it in red. All right, negative 4x squared and positive 4x squared is going to eliminate. The first one always will if you've done something wrong. X and 8x gives me 9x. And now I'm going to bring down my minus 3. So what do I need to multiply x by to get 9x? And the answer to that would be 9. So I'm going to write plus 9 up here. And I'm going to multiply 9 by x plus 2 using distribution. So 9 times x is 9x. 9 times 2 is 18. Change both signs. So negative, negative. All right? 9x and negative 9x eliminates. Negative 3 and negative 18 is negative 21. And again, this is my remainder. When we write our answer, we don't want to leave it down there though. We're going to write it like this. Take everything from up here. So 2x squared minus 4x plus 9 plus negative 21 over this x plus 2. Long division of polynomials. One more to go, and this one is a little more difficult because it has two little things in it. One is this. If we have x to the fourth, we're missing x to the third, so we've got to put a 0 in that spot, 0x to the thirds. And our denominator, which goes out here, has 3 terms. Everything still works the exact same way. All right? So we're going to start. Let me grab a new highlighter because this one's dying. The question is, what do we need to multiply this by to get this? And the answer is 2x squared. So I'm going to go to my x squared column and write it up here. I'm going to multiply this by this using distribution. So 2x squared times x squared is 2x to the fourth. 2x squared times x is 2x to the third. 2x squared times negative 3 is negative 6x squared. Change all 3 signs. So this is negative, this is negative, this is positive. 2x to the fourth and negative 2x to the fourth will eliminate. That first one always will. Here I have 0x to the thirds, and negative 2x to the thirds gives me negative 2x to the third. Negative 3x squared and 6x squared gives me plus 3x squared. And guess what? Bring down one more term. So I have plus 7x. All right? Now, I'm going to look at that x squared out in the front. What do I need to multiply it by to make it become negative 2x to the third? And the answer to that is negative 2x. So that's what goes up here. Negative 2x times x squared is negative 2x to the third. Negative 2x times x is negative 2x squared. And negative 2x times negative 3 is plus 6x. Change all 3 signs. So this is a plus, this is a plus, and this is now a minus. All right? And we add. Negative 2x to the third and positive 2x to the third will eliminate. 3x squared and 2x squared gives me 5x squared. And 7x minus 6x leaves me with just 1x. bring down my last term, which is that minus 8. All right? What do I need to multiply this x squared by to get it to be 5x squared? And the answer to that is 5. So here's where we're going to put 5. We're going to multiply 5 times this trinomial using distribution. So 5 times x squared is 5x squared. 5 times x is 5x. And 5 times negative 3 is minus 15. Don't forget, change all 3 signs. So minus, minus, plus. All right, 5x squared and negative 5x squared are going to eliminate. Positive x and negative 5x gives me negative 4x. And negative 8 and plus 15 gives me plus 7. So this here is my remainder. All right? It has 2 terms because this had 3. I can't go any further because I don't have anything left here. All right? So here's what I'm going to have as my answer. Take this. I've got 2x squared minus 2x plus 5 plus, take all of this, and that is negative 4x plus 7, over all of this. X squared plus x minus 3.